On this episode of RevHang, Ben and I wrap up the 2022 motorsport season. Let's do it. Hello, everybody, and for the final time this season, welcome to RevHang. I'm your host, Nathan Nevue, and alongside me today is my fellow gearhead and co-host, Ben Bagley. How's it going, Ben?
We're almost to winter break, and I am super excited to take a break from work and spend a little time with family. And tonight, I'm glad we get to talk about a little racing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the time of year where you get to kind of kick back a little bit, hopefully, unless you work at Amazon, in which case I am very sorry.
Yeah, in which case I'm expecting a package tomorrow. It better be here.
It better, chop. But yeah, we're talking about some racing today. I'm already missing the racing season. It's only been, not even 3 weeks?
Oh man, I've been driving a lot really fast just thinking about it.
Yeah. I've been hitting my apexes on my corners. I know it's getting to that point where I'm missing F1 too much.
Patiently waiting for Racing Santa Claus to come back in March.
Yes.
With the gift of Formula One.
Long winter. But let's not start with Formula One. We'll save that to the end because that's everybody's favorite thing to talk about. We'll start with MotoGP. Not that that's not everybody's favorite thing to talk about. But this is going to be the season review of kind of every series that we went over this season. We're going to talk about MotoGP, IMSA, IndyCar, and Formula One. And we're not going to spend too long on the non-Formula One series since we do have so much invested in terms of predictions and all of that with F1. So we'll kind of go through just the general how the season went and go through the standings. Really is all we're going to do. So starting with MotoGP, one of the big things this season was it was a pretty close, tight battle to the end between Bagnaia, Quartararo, and even Bastianini and Espargaro got in there at the end, or were in there for most of the season, but it was nice to see a pretty close battle throughout the whole season.
Yeah, and being kind of like a first-time watcher of the series, it was kind of cool to see not just one or two people win it all the time, but there's a pretty good spread of people who you're like, he might win this race. Even though in the point standings, there's really a pretty big gap between like maybe the top four and the rest of them.
Yeah, it's it was my first season watching MotoGP too, and it was pretty enjoyable. I mean, the races are a lot less predictable than they are in F1. In terms of anything can happen at any point, it's a lot more likely that the leader will crash out of the race. I think that happened 5, 6, 7 times this season. So I think it's got its own appeal to it in terms of racing. It's a lot different than car racing. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, and especially since I started riding a motorcycle, I actually found myself a lot more interested in it. Once I actually did start riding and relate to it a bit more.
Yeah, I bet that would help a lot. I am hoping to get a bike, hopefully, this upcoming spring.
Yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Now's the time to buy a bike. It's winter, nobody's riding.
Yeah. That's the goal. Yeah, we'll see. It was a really good. I mean, it was a really good season all the way to the end. Like I said, there was pretty much 4 people in the championship for most of the season. Aleix Espargaro did a fantastic job with Aprilia. That team is not really super championship worthy, and he put that bike at the front of the field more often than not. So, great job to Aleix. He had his first win this season. I don't think he got any more past that, but he had a very good season and was consistently top 5. Francesco Bagnaia also mounted a great comeback in the last few races to snatch the championship from Quartararo. Quartararo had a pretty bad run at the end, had a couple of really key DNFs that probably lost him the championship, but it would have been close either way.
Yeah, he was so strong at the start.
Yeah.
But, yeah. It's kind of cool to see somebody just come up from behind like that and sweep it away.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll go through the championship standings real quick. In first place, winning the championship was Francesco Bagnaia, followed by Fabio Quartararo and Enea Bastianini. In the top three, 4 and 5 were Alessa Spargaro and Jack Miller. 6 through 10 was Brad Binder, Alex Rins, Johan Zarco, Jorge Martin, and Miguel Oliveira. 11 through 15 was Maverick Vinales, Luca Marini, Marc Marquez, Marco Bezzecchi, and Juan Mir. 16 through 20 was Paul Espargaro, Alex Marquez, Taka Nakagami, Franco Morbidelli, and Fabio Di Giannantonio. 21 through 25 was Andrea Dovizioso, Raul Fernandez, Remy Gardner, Darren Binder, Cal Crutchlow. Yep. And then 26 through 30 was Stefan Bradel, Michel Pirro, Lorenzo Savadori, Tetsuda Nagashima, and Danilo Petrucci. And then rounding off the field at 31 and 32 are Kazuki Watanabe and Takuya Suda.
God, there's so many riders.
Yeah, lots of riders. We had 32 this year. Lots of substitutions, especially at the end. We got a lot more Japanese drivers in.
Yeah. I will say another thing that I took away from MotoGP. I'm not as afraid to crash on my bike after seeing some of the crashes these guys had.
Yeah? Are you wearing armor and all that?
I have like a jacket and the pants and all that. I don't have the fancy like auto-inflating airbag or like the neck device or anything like that. But, I feel like I could survive a pretty good tumble compared to what these guys go through.
Yeah, probably. And you're not like you're not riding a street fighter, are you? Isn't it more of a touring?
No, I have an adventure bike.
Oh, an adventure bike. Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
although granted, if I crash my bike, it's not really going to be repaired by the Suzuki factory team on their dime. So
that's true. It might be a little more expensive than that. But yeah, so that was MotoGP for this season. Really fun to get into it and watch it a little bit. IMSA is up next. We have 2 races that we need to catch up on since the mid-season review. The first one was the Michelin GT Challenge in Danville, Virginia at Virginia International Raceway. This was a 2-hour and 40-minute race and was GTD and GTD Pro only. We didn't have any prototype cars.
Wow.
Main factors in this race, DeFilippi and Taylor kind of ran away with it in the beginning in the GTD Pro category. They maintained a 10-second lead until, with about an hour left in the race, a caution and a restart dropped them back to third. Matthew Jaminet took over the lead for the rest of the race and drove off across the finish line. There's a lot of tough racing in the GTD class too, with lots of light contact between pretty much all of the drivers. The guy that won the GTD class actually had a moment where he got tagged by another car off the track and ended up driving around with a like a cardboard sign across the front of his car blocking his intake. He was able to continue for a couple laps, but had to pit because his car started overheating, understandably.
They didn't pull him over because of like a debris safety or anything like that.
They did throw they threw the yellow flag for debris eventually.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, that's really surprising that he was able to drive around and his car overheated before they pulled him off.
Yeah. So the results for this race in the GTD Pro category: in first place was Matt Campbell and Matthew Jaminet. In second place was Antonio Garcia and Jordan Taylor, and in third place was Jack Hawksworth and Ben Barnicoat. In the GTD class, in first place was Russell Ward and Philip Ellis. Second place was Roman De Angelis and Maxime Martin. Third place was Brian Sellers and Madison Snow. Rounds off the Michelin GT Challenge. Let's move on to the Petite Le Mans at Road America in Braselton, Georgia. Hi, this is Future Nathan. I meant to say Road Atlanta, not Road America. Silly me. Back to the show. This is a 10-hour race, a little less than half of the Le Mans race. And another thing to note is this track is quite a bit shorter than the Le Mans track. So with every single class on the track at the same time, the track was pretty chaotic with lap traffic and all of that. Bamber and Blomqvist battled in the DPI class early on in the race. It's pretty fun to watch. They went back and forth quite a bit. Bamber did start to pull away, though, in the middle of the race. Most of the racing, like I said, was in chaotic lap traffic because all the classes were running this week. Every class had close racing at the top, which made each class fun to watch individually. You could watch any one of the classes, and there's two cars within a second of each other battling for the lead. It was, no matter which way you went, it was pretty nail-biting. In the last hour, both Chip Ganassi Racing prototype cars ran into each other and took themselves out of the race for the lead.
Incredible.
Yep. I think that happened in IndyCar this year, too.
Yeah, that seems like a Chip Ganassi Racing moment.
Yep. And then at the end of the race, Albuquerque made a run for the lead against Blomqvist with about 15 minutes left, but he hit a lapped car and sustained race-ending damage.
What?
Which was pretty tragic.
Oh, man.
So the results for this race in the DPI class, in first place was Oliver Jarvis, Tom Blomqvist, and Helio Castro Neves. Second place was Olivier Pla, Pipo Durrani, and Mike Conway. Third place was Mike Rockefeller, Kamui Kobayashi, and Jimmy Johnson.
Really love seeing all the IndyCar drivers.
Oh, yeah.
Once the season ends, they all just go over to DPI and endurance.
Yeah, and they generally do pretty well.
Yeah.
It's awesome. In the LMP2 class, first place was John Ferrano, Louis Delatraz, and Rui Andrade. Second place was Henrik Hedman, Juan Pablo Montoya, and Sebastian Montoya. It's good to see them finally have a good race.
Finally.
Third place was Stephen Thomas, Josh Pearson, and Tristan Nunez. LMP3, first place was Jarrett Andretti, Gabby Chavez, and Josh Burden. Second place was Ari Ballo, Garrett Grist, and Nolan Siegel. Third place was Joao Barbosa, Maltha Jakobsen, and Nicholas Pino. In the GTD Pro class, first place was Jack Hawksworth, Ben Barnicoat, and Kyle Kirkwood. Second place was Connor DeFilippi, John Edwards, and Jesse Krohn. Third place was Matt Campbell, Matthew Jaminet, and Felipe Nazer. In the GTD class, to round things off, first place was Kiffin Simpson, Bechtelsheimer, and Mario Farnbacher. Second place was Brendan Arieb, Jordan Lee Pepper, and Sebastian Priot, I think. Third place was Robbie Foley, Bill Alberlin, and Michael Dinan.
You got you working overtime on that one.
Boy, some of these names.
You handled Priot better than I would have.
Yeah, I think that's close enough to write.
Sebastian P.
Yeah, we'll go with that. So that rounds off the Petite Le Mans race. Now we'll go through the championship standings at the end. Winning the DPI class was Oliver Jarvis and Tom Blomqvist. Second place was Ricky Taylor and Felipe Albuquerque. Third place was Renger van der Zand and Sebastian Bourdais. In LMP2, at the end of the season, first place was John Ferrano. Second place was Dwight Merriman and Ryan DL. Third place was Stephen Thomas. I don't know why in these lower prototype classes there's some single drivers. I'd imagine it's because they switched off teammates at some points in the season, so the teammates didn't get the same amount of points that they did.
They missed cuffing season.
Yeah, that's what it was. So yep, there's that. LMP3. The winner was John Bennett and Colin Braun. Second place was Garrett Robinson. Third place was Ari Ballo and Gary Grist. GTD Pro, the winners were Matt Campbell and Matthew Jaminet. They won, it seemed like, almost every single race.
Yep.
Second place was Ben Barnicoat, and third place was Antonio Garcia and Jordan Taylor. Finally, in the GTD class, at the end of the season, the winner was Ramon De Angelis. Second was Ryan Hardwick and Jan Halen. And third was Stephen McAleer. All right. That kind of rounds off IMSA for this year. It was... Those races are long, and they are kind of hard to write about.
Yeah. it's definitely like it's one of those things where I really wanted to be able to say, I was like, oh yeah, I watched the whole race and it was super cool. But more often than not, I would watch the start of the race. I would go and make some coffee and eat lunch and do something else. I come back to it after hour or so and see if there are any crashes. Come back to it every hour until like the last 15 minutes and then see what's still going on.
Yeah, that's the fun thing about IMSA and WEC also, is you can turn the race on and have it kind of going in the background all day while you're getting things done. But it's a really, really hard series to follow closely for an extended period of time. And it's kind of hard to go through standings when there's 3 drivers per car.
Yeah, I want to try watching it more just to kind of figure out who the drivers are, but it changes so often and there's so many, and there's so many different per class. It's definitely a really high cost of entry in terms of how much mindshare it takes, but one day.
Yeah. But I mean, I enjoy it also because so many IndyCar drivers, like you said, take part in this, and then you have former F1 drivers like Kamui Kobayashi, Helio Castroneves. Like, it's just a lot of the older racing generation that's kind of out of their prime, kind of battling it out in the prototype cars, and I think it's a lot of fun to watch because you see a lot of great drivers from a lot of different backgrounds.
Definitely. It's definitely some of the best racing you get to see, especially at the start and the end.
Absolutely. It's so aggressive, especially at the end.
It's aggressive. They're just going at it. Everyone's tired. They're irritable by the end, depending on where they're at.
Yeah. The reason it's so aggressive, too, I think, is because there's so few races in the season. Like, I think, prototype cars only had maybe 7 or 8 races this season. And so every single race counts so much.
Yeah, and you have time to repair damage if you get damaged.
That's true. Yeah.
So it's definitely conducive to risk-taking, we'll call it.
Absolutely. Alrighty, let's move on to IndyCar. Some major talking points from this IndyCar season was a really tight championship battle to the end. It was a lot of fun to watch. I really enjoyed watching IndyCar this year, and I can't wait for it to start up again next season. Most of the races were actually really exciting this year, which I was actually kind of surprised by, because when I've tried to watch IndyCar in the past, generally I'm pretty bored, but I think that was also before I was super into racing.
Yeah.
So it was really good to see a lot of exciting races this year. We didn't have a lot of wet races. We had the one at Indianapolis and also the one in Nashville. But other than that, it was mostly dry, which it was interesting that we still had a lot of great races with no weather.
Yeah, I definitely prefer dry IndyCar racing. I know that's kind of a thing in Formula One where rain's the great equalizer and it's cool to see rain races, but IndyCar I think I definitely prefer in the dry conditions.
I think so too, yeah. So also this season, Will Power broke the pole position record. I forgot to include the number. I think it's in the high 50s or low 60s. He took that record from Mario Andretti, the IndyCar and Formula One legend. So pretty awesome stuff from him. He also managed to take home the championship this season with a whopping 1 win, but really consistently at the top. Joseph Newgarden, on the other hand, is still hunting for that 3rd championship, even though he managed to win 5 races this year.
Oh, he was so close.
I know. I mean, he was so, when he was having a bad day, he was so far down, which is why he lost.
He either did really well and was just absolutely clawing his way through the field every race, or he was like doing 15th. The exact opposite of that. Yeah.
So if he can manage to nail down that consistency a little more next season, I'm sure he's going to be another championship contender again. But that's the other thing I like about IndyCar as opposed to Formula One too, is that everybody's in the same machinery. So at the beginning of the season, like really anybody can win the championship. Yeah, and it's just you just don't feel like that in F1. Like there's pretty much no shot Nico Hülkenberg is the 2023 F1 champion. Like, I'm sorry, but that's just not going to happen. But it would mean that he
much...
probably got on a podium at some point, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and I like how it comes down to also being able to balance being really good on street courses and really good on ovals. Like,
for
Roman
sure.
Grosjean's pretty good on street courses, but really fell behind in the ovals.
Yeah.
Same for a couple of drivers.
Takuma Sato.
Yeah, Takuma Sato. Marcus Ericsson did really well at the Indy 500, but just wasn't able to put it together everywhere. So
Yeah,
it's kind of
Ericsson
cool to
was...
need that balance.
Yeah. Ericsson was leading the championship for a while after that Indy 500 win, but he couldn't really put in any stellar performances aside from that.
No.
Which was kind of unfortunate because I really wanted him to win. The guy gets booted from F1. If he went and won IndyCar, that'd be so cool.
That would have been pretty sweet. Jimmy Johnson, is he still... Does he have a seat for next year?
He retired. He stepped down. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was hearing.
Yeah. So he is actually... I don't remember... For some reason, something in my mind is telling me he's doing ovals only next year. I know Takuma Sato is doing that. I don't remember. He might do an oval next year. He might do the 500. That might be.
Everyone wants to do the 500. I would do the 500 if I was.
I would do the 500 too, but that's just me. Danny Ricciardo might not do the 500 because apparently ovals scare him. Which
Lando Norris wants to do the 500 though. I heard.
Oh, he so does, and I think deep down Max Verstappen wants a triple crown. I think that's what he's gonna do after F1.
That'd be so cool.
He's gonna go for the triple crown because
I would love to see if he could actually compete in an oval.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, Lando has already been practicing it on iRacing like a lot. So he takes part in
McLaren's not gonna let him do the Indy 500.
Not over Monaco, no. Because they're always the same day. It's always Memorial Day. So
yeah, plus the practice sessions and all that, coupled with the fact that their other driver is in his rookie season in F1.
Oh yeah.
He's gonna.
They're not going to take
Norris
Lando.
Is going to be a busy McLaren driver this coming year. He has no time for that. Give him like 7 years. In 7 years, maybe he will finally do an oval.
Maybe. We'll see. But yeah, it'll be fun to watch the careers of all of these drivers after they leave F1 eventually. But it seems like the grid is pretty young right now, but I feel like the most of the talent coming up is like gonna start pushing people out. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. I think we've got a pretty solid grid for the next couple years.
Fernando Alonso's... I mean, he has a couple years, but after that...
Yeah. I think 2026 is when things are going to start kicking off, because everybody's going to retire.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But anyway, before we get into F1, let's talk about we'll go over the championship standings for IndyCar. Winning the championship, like we said, was Will Power. Second and third place were Joseph Newgarden and Scott Dixon. 4 and 5 were Scott McLaughlin and Alex Palou. 6 through 10 was Marcus Ericsson, Pato Award, Alex Rossi, Felix Rosenqvist, and Colton Herta. 11 through 15 was Graham Rahal, Rinus VeeKay, Roman Grosjean, Christian Lundgaard, and Simon Pagenaud. 16 through 20 was David Malukas, Connor Daly, Helio Castroneves, Takuma Sato, and Callum Ilott. 21 through 25 was Jimmy Johnson, Jack Harvey, Devlin DeFrancesco, Kyle Kirkwood, and Dalton Kellett. 26 through 30 was Tony Kanaan, Ed Carpenter, Santino Ferrucci, Tatiana Calderon, and J.R. Hildebrand. And rounding off the list, 31 through 35 were Juan Pablo Montoya, Simona De Silvestro, Marco Andretti, Sage Karam, and Stefan Wilson. All right. Lots of drivers.
So many.
Yeah. Let's move on to Formula One and get talking about this. We'll go through basically like we did with all the other series, the talking points of the season and the championship standings. And then we'll have some paddock news. And then we are going to go into our predictions and talk about those
Very exciting.
Very exciting. So, this season, some of the talking points. Verstappen was absolutely dominant for the whole thing. Well, not the whole thing. The beginning, it looked like Ferrari might want to run away with it, but that did not happen.
I was so excited.
Yeah, me too. And then Ferrari did Ferrari things. But yeah, Verstappen, at least like the last 2/3 of the season, was just so dominant. Mercedes fell off at the beginning of the season, but was able to claw their way back to be pretty competitive, and I'd say fighting pretty much for the lead of some of the races, especially like in Brazil when they won. But they have a car that is at least a front runner now, I'd say, rather than kind of just top of the midfield.
Yeah, too bad it took them all the way until the last 3 races of the season to do it.
Yep. But one thing to note is they basically have said that their car design was flawed, and they know exactly why, and they're going to fix it for next season. And so I anticipate Mercedes doing very, very, very well next season.
What do you think the chances are they're lying?
It's possible they could be. I don't know. I feel like with Toto Wolff in charge and Lewis Hamilton and George Russell there, how could they not be like bounce back?
Yeah. No, I have all confidence that they probably haven't fixed the problem, but there's a little bit in the back of my mind. It's like, what if they're fronting? What if they don't fix the car next year? What if it's worse?
I anticipate almost. I think it's very possible we have a kind of 2016 repeat where we have. We'll throw Verstappen in there, but you have Russell and Hamilton battling for the championship, or at least close up to the top there, and they start to get toxic like Hamilton and Rosberg did.
I would be really interested to see that. I feel like Hamilton's definitely come a long way since then in terms of like his maturity level.
Yeah.
As a driver, I think George Russell he could definitely sustain something like that, but I don't know if Lewis Hamilton, especially after having that thing with Rosberg, I don't know if he's as prone to getting into stuff like that anymore. We'll see. At least that's my hope.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch. So moving on to Ferrari. Ferrari was an absolute disaster this season. They had so many problems with pit stops and strategy and engineers and Mattia Binotto. It's just everything kind of went wrong for them this season, and I feel bad for Leclerc especially because he probably could have fought for the title.
Yeah, hopefully he gets another chance this coming season.
Yep,
and hopefully
he does.
Hopefully the team and the drivers are a bit more prepared for the kind of mentality that it takes to win the championship.
I think there's a good possibility they will be, and we'll get into that a little more in a little bit.
Ooh, foreshadowing.
Yeah. Reliability played a major role this season, more than most seasons. Red Bull kept blowing up at the beginning of the season. That's why they kind of fell behind a little bit, is because they couldn't figure out why their cars were not making it to the end of races. But they got that solved pretty quickly, and then the problem started for Ferrari, and they just had engine failures at the most inopportune times. Carlos Sainz was fighting for a podium in Austria when his engine forcibly blew up. And Leclerc was leading the race in Spain when his engine gave. He was, I think, second in Baku when his engine blew. So lots of points left on the board for Ferrari.
Yeah, especially with so many pole positions.
Yeah, they had such a fast car in qualifying, they just could not make it translate to the consistency you need to win. I can't talk. The consistency you need to win a race. But hopefully they can get that solved and buttoned up next season, because I'd love to see Ferrari at the top. It's been 15 years now since they've won a championship, and that doesn't really feel right. For it being Ferrari, which is like the most legendary F1 team of all time.
Yeah, 15 years ago when I was 8 in 8th or 3rd grade, Was the last time they won a championship?
Yeah.
I'd say it's definitely time.
Yeah, Kimi Räikkönen was the last Ferrari champion.
My hero.
Yeah. So let's talk about our favorite races this season. I have I've kind of got a couple I can't really choose between. I thought Britain was awesome. The US was also very good, and Brazil. Those are kind of the top three that stand out to me.
Yeah, I think the US GP was definitely one of my favorites that I can recall.
Yeah.
And then there's another one. I can't remember. I'll leave it at the US GP.
Not leave it the US.
Just stick to one really good one.
There you go. Sounds good. Yeah, there were a lot of good races this season. There weren't too many boring races. There were a couple. I'm not gonna lie. But overall, I think it was pretty entertaining. I just wish the title battle was a little closer. I think that would have added some drama. But we can't all have. I think we were spoiled by 2021 a little bit.
Yeah, 2021 was absolutely loaded. Not necessarily in terms of really excellent, exciting races. Towards the end, it definitely was, because the battle between Hamilton and Verstappen was really close.
Yeah.
But I think the racing was more consistently exciting this year.
I would agree with that.
Especially in the midfield.
So. Yeah, the cars seemed a lot closer, and they could follow a lot closer too, but through corners. So the racing was definitely better, especially like you said, in the midfield.
Yeah, I remember what was that first race where we had 4 cars all battling for first place by the last lap? Which one was that?
Which one was that? Four cars battling for first place on the last lap. I don't remember.
I think it was earlier in the season.
Was it? Probably
yeah.
Was.
It seems so long ago. It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago for sure. But yeah, no, it was definitely a good season. And I am definitely looking forward to the future of F1 with Audi coming in, and yeah, it's gonna be cool.
Yeah, lots of rumors to talk about when we get to it.
Oh yes. In terms of what to look forward to next year, I would say there's some spicy driver pairings that are going to be very, very fun to watch. I think, like I said, Hamilton-Russell might get spicy. Verstappen-Perez could after Brazil. Ocon-Gasly will probably be spicy. And
Vettel-Stroll, or not Vettel-Stroll, Alonso-Stroll.
Alonso-Stroll. We've got Hulkenberg and Magnussen. There's a lot of there's a lot of good ones, and then you've got Norris and Piastri, and Piastri's like this huge talent that's got something to prove, and it could be very interesting.
Yeah, Norris definitely has kind of, I don't want to call it a chip on his shoulder, but after outperforming Ricciardo 2 seasons in a row, I would bet he's probably feeling pretty good. So I'd be interested to see if Piastri can challenge that a little bit and see what would happen.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see. So I think that's kind of what I look forward to most for next season is the driver pairings. And then, of course, all the points go to 0. It's a new championship, a new story. And that's just fun to watch. I feel like I enjoy that. I feel like I enjoy the season the most at the beginning of the season when it's all still nebulous.
Yep. Yeah, I really like that too. Back at the start of the season when we thought Haas had a chance of winning the midfield.
We're like,
God,
yo, Haas legit
times.
might actually be 5th place this year. What? That was just like one race.
Yeah.
Bummer. But yeah, it'll be fun to see. So let's move on to the championship standings real quick. For the Drivers' Championship, in first place was Max Verstappen. Followed second, third was Leclerc and Perez. 4th and 5th were Russell and Sainz. 6 through 10 were Hamilton, Norris, Ocon, Alonso, and Bottas. 11 through 15 were Ricciardo, Vettel, Magnussen, Gasly, and Stroll. 16 through 20 were Schumacher, Tsunoda, Zhou, Albon, and Latifi. And then 21st place with 2 points, our boy Nick DeVries.
That a kid.
So, Constructors' Championship, winning the championship by 205 points was Red Bull Racing. Second place was Ferrari, and third place was Mercedes, and they actually finished a lot closer than I thought they did. They were only separated by 39 points, it looks like. Yeah. So, yeah, that started to close up at the end. Fourth place was Alpine, fifth was McLaren, sixth was Alfa Romeo, 7 was Aston Martin, 8 was Haas, 9th was AlphaTauri, and 10th was Williams. AlphaTauri had a bummer of a year.
Yeah, they just faded into the background so quickly.
Yeah. It's kind of strange, like, seeing Gasly so far back every time because of, like, last year in 2021, he was so fast.
Yeah, especially seeing Tsunoda at the start of the season, really challenging Gasly.
Yeah.
And having some really good races, and then all of a sudden they both just fell off.
Yeah. So that's the F1 championships wrapped up for this season. We'll move on to our paddock news segment. First off, Mattia Binotto, Ferrari's team principal, resigned and was replaced by Fred Vasseur of Alfa Romeo, filling Vasseur's spot at Alfa. Well, actually, not. I don't know who Alfa still doesn't know who their team principal is, but the McLaren team principal, Andreas Seidel, has stepped away from McLaren and become Sauber's CEO and will oversee the Audi takeover. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how that all works out. I don't know if he's going to act as the team principal as well as the CEO. I don't know what the plan is there, but we'll see. He is a genius, very very well regarded in the F1 community, and so I think he will do great things with Audi.
Yep.
So to replace him, McLaren has called up Andrea Stella, who has worked his way up through the ranks in the team. I really like that they've hired from within. I think that just goes with McLaren's kind of how they want to portray themselves as kind of a family, it seems like.
Yeah. They're such a far-reaching team across like IndyCar and F1 and all these different Formula E, and it's kind of cool to see so much like interchangeability within that. They have so many places to hire people from.
For sure. So in other news, team principal wise, Williams team principal Yas Capito and Williams technical director Francois Javier Demaison have left the team.
Nice.
I don't know if I said that even close to right, but that's a very French name, and I had to try.
Sounded cool.
Yeah.
Do you know why Capito left?
Capito, I believe, just retired. I think the deal was he was on his way into retirement, and Doralton Capital convinced him not to take over the Williams team. So that's why he was hired when the Williams family left. They convinced him basically not to retire, and I think after finishing last basically in the last couple seasons, I think he's just decided, this ain't for me.
He's tired.
Yeah, it's like, let me just go retire. I don't blame him. But we'll see what happens there. Hopefully they don't pick up Binotto. I don't think that's what they need.
Could you imagine?
Oh my gosh.
Actually, I want that to happen. I think that would be hilarious.
That would be really funny, actually, yeah. But yeah, we'll see. And also, I forgot to include this on news, but we did just hear a couple days ago that the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix will be the season opener in 2024.
Oh yeah, I did see something about that. How do you feel about it?
I think their well, I don't really care, aside from I think their reasoning is a lie, because they said at Saudi Arabia that they wanted to have that earlier time slot because they don't want to race during Ramadan, but they just took the time slot away from Bahrain, which is another Muslim country. So I don't really understand their reasoning there, but I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter to me. I'm not really upset by it.
Yeah,
it's actually a pretty good. I think it's a decent track in terms of the entertainment that tends to happen. It's kind of a different race. It tends to be more of a DRS game rather than like a traditional street race, I guess. You have to really watch where you are, where your opponent is, and it creates these interesting tactics that we've seen the last couple years we've raced there.
Yeah, as like one of the faster circuits, I do like it for that.
Yeah. Also, drivers driving new cars that they haven't driven at one of the most difficult circuits on the calendar, starting the race year off. It's like awesome.
I can't wait to see a Ferrari just freaking blow up on the main straight.
Hopefully not. But yeah. So that wraps up the paddock news. We'll go over the pit stop championship standings now, since that was a segment that we included every time. In first place for the drivers was Sergio Perez, winning by 130 points. Second place was Verstappen, followed by Tsunoda and Gasly, and Norris in fifth. 6 through 10 was Vettel, Leclerc, Sainz, Hamilton, and Alonso. 11 through 15 was Stroll, Ricciardo, Russell, Latifi, and Ocon. 16 through 20 was Albon, Zhou, Bottas, Magnussen, and Schumacher. And in 21st place, our boy Nico Hülkenberg. The Constructors' Championship was won by Red Bull, followed by AlphaTauri and Ferrari. Fourth and fifth were Aston Martin and McLaren. 5 through 10 was Mercedes, Alpine, Williams, Alfa Romeo, and finally Haas.
All reliable. Haas coming in last, no matter how arbitrary the competition.
Yep. So now let's move on to the predictions that we set at the beginning of the season, and also the predictions that we made midway through the season.
Oh, brother.
Lots of red on our screens here.
This is really bad.
Yeah, it was. So let's go through our Constructors' Championship predictions. I'll let you go first. Just go through your top 10.
Okay. I got Red Bull correct. They did come in first. My second place I had was Mercedes, followed by Ferrari in third. Then McLaren, Aston Martin, Alpine, AlphaTauri, Haas, Williams, and Alfa Romeo. I did get Haas correct in 8th. I wish that I didn't. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. So I got first place and 8th place in overall constructors correct.
There you go.
Very cool.
My top 10 was, I had Ferrari winning it all, followed by Red Bull and Mercedes in third. I got Mercedes correct in third place. Then I had McLaren fourth, followed by AlphaTauri, Aston Martin, Williams, Alpine, Haas, and Alfa Romeo. I predicted the Williams comeback incorrectly. I was hoping. But Alfa Romeo did a lot better than I think both of us thought they were going to do.
Yeah.
So, yep, I got third place and you got first and 8th. So, you take that round.
Okay, but the Driver Championship comes up.
Driver's Championship.
Yeah. I'm not going to list them all out because that's a lot. Needless to say, I got Verstappen right and nothing else.
Yep. I got Verstappen and Leclerc right, so I had Verstappen, Leclerc 1-2. And I got Lando Norris right in 7th place and nothing else.
What a weird thing to get right.
Yeah. Very strange. But, I mean, I don't think either of us were too far off. I think we overestimated AlphaTauri, it looks like. We both thought Gasly was going to be way higher.
I think we both, at least I vastly underestimated Alpine.
Oh, yeah. Did you? Alonso? Oh, yeah. Well, you had... you underestimated Ocon. So did I.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I underestimated Alpine. I thought Alonso was going to be 15th.
Oh yeah, I see that now. Woof.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, I was wrong. I'll take that L.
Yeah, and definitely overestimated Ricciardo. I had him at 7th.
Well, poor guy.
Poor guy.
All right. So, I guess I'll take that round, but I don't think we're keeping score. Total safety cars and virtual safety cars. This one was kind of tough to predict at the beginning of the season. What did you go with?
I went with 22, which was not enough.
No, I went with 34, which was almost enough.
You were close.
I was close.
That was a good guess.
We had 37 total safety cars and virtual safety cars. Let it be noted, if a virtual safety car turned into a safety car, I just counted that as a safety car.
Okay.
But if it was just total safety cars and you guessed 22, Ben, you would have been spot on. There were 22
really?
Safety cars. Yep.
I'll take that one.
There you go.
Yeah, fastest laps. How about that one?
Most fastest laps. I went with Leclerc.
What? Do you remember what I was thinking when I put Norris?
I think we were both thinking that McLaren was going to be fast and Norris was going to be the faster driver. And then Bahrain happened and we both got really scared because they finished like 18th and 19th or something like that.
Dang it, McLaren sucks this year.
Yeah. I was like, oh, McLaren's the new Haas. I remember that meme was going around.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, please no. I don't want to be a McLaren fan right now.
I remember that being such a swing from last season too, because there were some memes going around just like midway through last season, just like Mercedes is no longer the fastest Mercedes-powered car on the track.
McLaren is, exactly.
Because McLaren is just swooping stuff up. But, that didn't happen. So, Verstappen had the most fastest laps, obviously.
Verstappen did. Yep, he had the most fastest laps. So neither of us got that. Total different race winners. What'd you put, Ben?
Man, I was so optimistic about this. I thought there were going to be 10 different race winners.
I was hoping you were right, man. But
it's like, man, brand new cars, brand new season, driver changes. This could be great.
Could be. But I went with 6, and the correct answer was 5. We had 5 different race winners.
That really puts it in perspective, especially after just talking about IndyCar.
Yeah. So our race winners this season was both Red Bulls, both Ferraris, and George Russell.
And George Russell.
Lewis Hamilton, his first season without a win. Kind of crazy.
Yeah. Does that include his rookie season too? Did he really?
No, he almost won the championship his rookie season.
Oh, you're right.
He was part of that.
He had one season before that where he... Huh.
No. So, yeah, kind of a bummer for him to break that streak, but, that's racing. Fastest pit stop team. You went. You played it safe.
Oh, reliable.
Yeah, you went with Red Bull, playing it safe, and I went with Williams, going out on a limb, and it ended up being McLaren. So
I'll say that you were closer on that one than I did.
I don't know. I mean, Red Bull was by far the fastest pit stop team in terms of the championship, like in all the races combined. But McLaren had the fastest pit stop this season, and that's what I was going for.
I don't remember that.
The fastest pit stop? It was in Mexico.
Oh, I do remember that now.
It was like a 1.92 or something like that.
They finally broke the 2 second.
Yeah. So that rounds off the predictions that we made at the beginning of the season. Needless to say, they were all incorrect, pretty much. But still fun. Still fun to go through what we thought and what actually happened.
We'll do better next season, or this coming season.
No, we won't. We will absolutely not.
Okay. That's fine too.
We kept saying we're gonna get better throughout the whole season, and every episode, it's just all red all the time. We'll see. Hopefully we do, but I'm not optimistic.
I will speak it to power.
Do it. So let's move on to the predictions we made over the summer break. There were 9 races left in the season at this point. So let's go total DNFs for the remaining 9 races. What did you say, Ben?
I said there are going to be 18 DNFs for those last races.
Okay, and I said 25, and it ended up being 27.
You were so close.
I was pretty close. I was hoping to nail one of these, but it just didn't happen. The team with the most DNFs. I went with Ferrari because I thought I was going with a safe bet.
Yeah, I did the same thing for Alfa Romeo. I figured that if Zhou Guanyu DNF'd every race, which it seemed like he was going to, that would seal the deal. But Alpine just came out of nowhere with a couple of double DNFs. just out of left field, really went for it. So I gotta respect him for that.
Yeah, I believe they had 5 DNFs in the last 9 races.
There was essentially over a 50% chance that one of their cars would not finish the race.
Yeah, it was bad. Alonso, I think, had like 4 of the 5. Because there were 2 double DNFs. So,
yeah.
But Alonso still got the short end of the stick on that. It was rough.
Yeah, I remember at the start of the season, Verstappen, for those first, what was it, like 3 or 4 races, just would either win or just wouldn't finish at all.
Yeah, he won every race that he finished.
That went on for quite a while.
It did
I
go on.
remember trying to keep track of that.
I think it went on for 6 or 7 races. I think it was pretty crazy. But yeah, so driver with the most pole positions, I went with Leclerc.
I got that one.
You did?
It was Verstappen.
It was Verstappen.
Leclerc was really close, wasn't he?
I think it was 1 less. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was definitely went to Verstappen. Actually, no, Verstappen had 5 pole positions. I think Leclerc had like 3, and then Kevin Magnussen had the other one, which just feels weird to say, but
that one I will.
Right.
As cool as it was, I will say that was kind of a technicality. I think.
Yeah, it was, but it was still really cool.
Nonetheless, yeah.
So most consistent driver, what we did for this is I went and put in a big giant matrix the finishing position of every single driver at the last 9 races, and then I just did a bunch of standard deviation calculations. So most consistent driver is the driver with the lowest standard deviation of finishing order of the finishing positions, and vice versa. Least consistent has the highest standard deviation. And these are very...
You're using statistics?
Yes, using actual statistics.
Incredible.
Yeah. These are very interesting. Very interesting. So most consistent driver, my guess was George Russell.
And I put Esteban Ocon.
Yeah. But it actually went to Charles Leclerc.
I need to see your spreadsheet. There's no way. Like most consistent for. I guess I can kind of see it, but
let me pull it up for you, Ben.
I'm so intrigued.
Yeah, no, I was like, "There's no way this is real."
I trust your math. You're probably better for it than I am.
Well, all I did was I did the standard deviation function and dragged the thing across. So, Excel makes that pretty easy. But yeah, I'll send you the spreadsheet later.
Yeah, let me take this to JMP 9.0 and I'll plug that in. I use the high tier like corporate statistical analysis software and see what happens.
Yeah, put it in Wolfram Alpha and see what it says.
Wolfram Alpha is not.
It's not gonna do that.
No,
it's not gonna do that. It's not that kind of thing. But
I'll show you JMP sometimes.
Please do.
That'll make you realize that Excel is good for making pretty things, but it's so dumb.
Yeah,
it'll change your life.
Okay, I'm excited.
Anyways,
most consistent driver according to my calculations was Charles Leclerc. And least consistent driver, my guess was Yuki Tsunoda.
And I had Valtteri Bottas.
Yes, the least consistent driver was actually Carlos Sainz, the other Ferrari driver.
That one makes sense.
That one does make sense because he finished at the top of the field a bunch and then had also 2 DNFs out of the 9 races.
Yep. So,
standard deviation-wise, he was kind of just screwed with those DNFs because DNFs count as wherever the finishing position was. So, in Japan and the US, he was the first DNF, so he finished 20th both of those races.
Woof.
Yeah. So that's what happened there. Most consistent team, same thing, but we factored in the finishing positions of both drivers. I went with Red Bull.
I had Mercedes for that, which I thought was going to be a shoe-in.
Yeah, actually, no.
No, apparently not.
I got it right. I said Red Bull. They destroyed the last half of the season, so that's what happened there. Least consistent team, we both guessed Ferrari, with I think good cause.
Yeah.
Leclerc's the one who saved that, I guess. Ferrari was second place in terms of least consistent team. They were second worst. But the least consistent team the last 9 races was actually Mercedes.
That's interesting to me.
Yeah, it's wild. But they had 2 Hamilton DNFs, or no, 1 Hamilton. I don't remember what happened, but Hamilton was the one that was lacking the consistency.
Okay, and especially because George Russell got first place during that last half. I'm sure that threw it off too.
That would have counted against the standard deviation, in terms of it would have made it higher, even though it was a better result. So
yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
I like
it's kind of interesting because you can win the most consistent team by being consistently like last place. So Williams was probably up there. But yeah, that's kind of how it shook out. That was quite interesting when I saw the results of that.
Definitely.
So next up, 4th place in the Drivers' Championship. My guess was Perez.
And I had Hamilton.
And 4th place went to George Russell.
I had the right team at least.
Yeah, absolutely, you did.
I'll take it. But
yeah, we were both
Russell did really well for his first season with Mercedes.
He did. He beat Lewis Hamilton in his first season with Mercedes. It's pretty impressive.
In equal machinery.
Yep. Pretty impressive. I don't think that got talked about as much as it should have.
No. It kind of got swept under the rug, I feel like.
Yeah, but
it was really weird seeing Hamilton with a second driver yellow on his top fin.
Yeah, very, very odd. But so lastly, 4th place in the Constructors' Championship. Hey, look at this. Ending it off right. We both got it right. We both said Alpine.
Love it.
So we ended off on a good note. Both of us get that correct. But that's kind of it for our predictions. Let's go on to the overtake of the season. This one was kind of hard to choose. Going back through trying to read all of our overtakes of the week and trying to figure out which one I thought was the best of the season. Some honorable mentions. Number 1 was Fernando Alonso on Yuki Tsunoda in Austria. That was the one where he dove down the inside of Tsunoda into turn 4 with one hand on the wheel and wagging his finger out the side of the car because of some shoving that went on earlier on the straight.
Austria was a good race. I think I remember that.
It was a good race, yes. Mick Schumacher did really well, if I remember right. I think that was the one where we had like a giant 5-car fight. I don't think it was for the lead, but it was for
it might have been actually. Yeah,
I think so because there was like a 5-car fight for 2 or 3 laps. It was awesome.
Okay, yeah, Austria and Coda. Those are my favorite races.
Gotcha. So second honorable mention was Charles Leclerc on Lewis Hamilton in Silverstone, going around the outside of Copse where the Verstappen incident happened in 2021. Leclerc basically did the same thing, but trusted Hamilton would not hit him, and that's what happened. Everybody made it through okay, and Leclerc ended up ahead. It was either this one. This one was hard for Silverstone because there was this one, and there was also the through goes Hamilton moment.
Yeah.
But the only reason I didn't include the through goes Hamilton is because both of the drivers in front of him made a mistake, which is what allowed him to go through. So,
yeah, we like to see the gutsy ones that takes real effort from the passing driver and not necessarily just a mistake from the passee.
Absolutely. Third honorable mention was Ross Chastain in NASCAR, overtaking half the field at Martinsville, riding the wall to transfer to the playoffs. that will go down in history.
That's never going to happen again.
Never again. I almost made that the overtake of the season, but it almost feels like kind of cliche almost. I don't know how to... I don't know.
That's what everybody.
That'll be our runner up for sure.
Yeah.
But the overtake of the season, I give it to Joseph Newgarden on Will Power at Laguna Seca in the IndyCar finale. It was a dive bomb from literally like 4 car lengths back into the corkscrew. Overtake between the 2 championship leaders. It was such a beauty. Will Power still won the championship because he had the points buffer, but that was an absolute full send from Joseph Newgarden, and it was so beautiful.
Newgarden turned that corkscrew this past Laguna Seca, just into an absolute killing field.
Oh, he did it so many times to so many people. The only reason I chose the Will Power one is because it was for the championship.
Yeah, didn't he pass like 6 people?
It was something like that.
Over the course of the race through the corkscrew. It's incredible. The corkscrew, if somebody actually does manage to pass the corkscrew at IndyCar, it's always going to be an incredible pass. You remember Roman Grosjean
going
season,
airborne? Yeah,
just jumping over the wheels of the car. I don't remember who he did it to. Might have been Holtner.
I don't remember who.
But, yeah, to come in like 4th for the
absolutely
race.
Nuts. Yeah, that was crazy. So yeah, that is the winner of our overtake of the season. Absolute legendary move there. Unfortunately, it did not get him the championship, but it was still incredible nonetheless. So that kind of wraps up our finale episode, the season review episode. This was a blast to do this podcast. I had a ton of fun this year. One thing I want to announce is next season RevHang will look a little bit different. It's going to be the same hosts that you know and love, but we are going to condense the show to only include F1 and IndyCar. We've kind of noticed over the course of the year that our passion and interests land primarily with those series, so that's kind of what we want to devote our time and energy to. Episodes will hopefully be a little shorter to make them easier to listen to in one go, but I'm hoping to also go a little more in depth into IndyCar next season. I'm also excited to announce a new podcast that I hope to have up and running by the time we start the next season of RevHang. The standing title is Shop Towels Are Better, or STAB for short.
Nice.
It's going to be a short-form weekly automotive news show to keep you updated on everything relevant in the world of cars, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But anyway, thank you everybody so much for listening to this episode and the inaugural season of RevHang. If you enjoyed it, leave a like or rating on the platform you listened on, because it really helps us out. If you'd like to follow our thoughts and opinions on the motorsport world, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at RevHang Media. If you have any thoughts or questions about racing or even about us, post a tweet at #RevHangPodcast, and we may feature your question on the next show next year. You can follow Ben on Instagram at BenjiMeetsWorld and or myself at 2n_squared. While you're at it, go check out our website, RevHang.com, where you can find the final standings for the racing series we talk about, as well as our predictions throughout the season. We will return in probably about mid-February to kick off the 2023 F1 season. But until then, Ben, do you have any words of wisdom to leave our viewers with over the winter break?
Yes, very important. I know we don't all live in snowy climates, but I'd like to talk to you about snow tires. Okay? Snow tires have gotten really good in the past. And there's a difference between studded tires and regular snow tires. Studded tires are really good for if you're experiencing lots of like really hard packed snow or ice or something like that, but not really good for anything else. I'm a little biased because I've been running just regular snow tires on my cars essentially since I've been driving, but modern snow tires that are studless are way better for the roads, so you don't have to, when the time comes, when that tax increase time comes, a little less damage you have to pay for during tax season. They're quieter, they get better grip in dry conditions, they get better grip in like rainy, non-snowy conditions, and they get the same or better grip in really snowy conditions. So make sure that you're choosing the right winter tire for your climate and what you're doing with your vehicle.
Awesome, Ben. Thank you for that little nugget of information to end the season on. It's a good one, considering we're all kind of going into winter now. But that is going to do it for the first season of RevHang. Thank you all so much again for listening. I have been Nathan.
And I've been Ben.
Thanks for hanging out.
See you guys.